Then creating a particular polarization of masses, right? So if you poison already or you manipulate the younger generation, this idea will be carried forward. So अच्छी बात है हिंदू राष्ट्र, बट हिंदू राष्ट्र चाहिए था तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में फाइट करते और बनाते. Once the constitution is set, once the value system is transmitted, right, now you cannot go counter to that, because you will disturb everything that has been created till now. If you needed it, you could have fought then, right? तो ये भी लॉजिकल कि भाई जिस समय जिन लोगों ने आइडियोलॉजी सोची, राइट, जिन्होंने देश को फ्री कराया, क्या वो बेवकूफ तो ना थे? They would also have anticipated, no? They were also coming from the same community. Why Nehru, being a Hindu, will work against Hindus? How logical is that? He would not have visualized that my generations will also come. Nobody will do that way, right? Politics has its own compulsion. Everybody does that. See, Hindu is such a community, right? If you start polarizing, they will resist, because we are not like that. We don't think like that. हमारे लिए डाइवर्सिटी हमारी सबसे बड़ी स्ट्रेंथ है, राइट? अब उस डाइवर्सिटी को हटा के आप होमोजेनिटी पे ला दो, हमें नहीं पसंद है. We may be casteist, right? We like that process. We are being criticized for that. It's okay. Liking a process मतलब क्या? We are not enjoying that, but we still want the social structure to be like that. 5,000 years से वो structure है, right? Instantly खत्म कैसे हो जाएगा? So even though I may not be casteist, right? But if someone wants to address me through a particular caste, I will not deny it. I'll say it's okay. Yes, I am. How you're forced to? You change your name. You eliminate your surname. It is your choice. Surname is the biggest tag for caste in India. Eliminate it. That is why a lot of backward people, a lot of these people started choosing particular kind of surnames. Gautam, coming from Gautam Buddha, is one such surname. Kumar is one such surname. Right? See? So it's not about कि भाई caste system सिर्फ exploitative ही है, right? वो identity भी तो है. Everybody wants an identity. And if it was used as an exploitative tool, right, the law, the constitution must take that into consideration. Change it, right? So don't have superiority ego, superiority complex that I am from this caste. But I can say I am from this caste and it has nothing to do with, right, me feeling superior than other. But still I can claim I am from this caste. That should not translate into me being or me assuming myself to be somewhere superior to others. यही तो चाहिए ना. Caste system कैसे खत्म होगा? Inequality in the caste system should be eliminated. Till the time the surname is there, the caste will never vanish. Right? Or you dissociate surname with the cultural group. You associate surnames with the professions that we are in. Right? तो अगर मैं अपना नाम रख दूं भाई आशुतोष इंजीनियर, ठीक है, बिल्कुल सही है. कार्तिकेय लॉयर, हो गया कास्ट खत्म, इजी कर लो. या तो हम ऐसे चेंज कर लो इसको, राइट? लेकिन अगर इफ यू वांट टू कैरी द सरनेम ऑफ योर फादर, देन हिज फादर, देन हिज फादर, डेफिनेटली दैट विल ऑलवेज रिमेन और दैट विल ऑलवेज क्रिएट दिस. द ओनली थिंग दैट कैन हैपन, वी कैन सेक्युलराइज द एटीट्यूड. So it doesn't matter to me, right? I have a lot of friends who are from so-called, right, lower caste, and I have very good relation with them, and I eat normally, right? My grandfathers would not have appreciated it, but I did not accept that value as a primary value for my social relation. I do not accept it. ये हमारे ऊपर है, right? जैसे food vegetarianism, 99% people in my house are vegetarian. I'm not. I cook, I eat also. I don't force them to cook. I don't ask them to eat. They don't eat. As simple as that for them, right? They don't like this one, so I say it's okay. You first cook your food, then I'll cook my food. I will cook in different utensil, you can cook in different, it doesn't matter. But you cannot stop me from eating, I will eat. If I'll not cook at home, I'll go out and eat. That's my food preference. Right? So logically, if I have not accepted it, right, as primary socialization, fine, I have my own views. It is possible. Same thing can happen with the caste. You can be born with a caste, don't live with that. So her personal value, right, not necessarily that it is distinct from the public identity, right, but They are to be evaluated on different principles. They are to be treated differently from each other. Are you getting? See, that is lie here. So if Hindus consider bigamy or polygamy as some crime, right? So they might treat every Muslim as a criminal, right? If that is a parameter, right? But how can I evaluate a Muslim from the Hindu premise, moral premise? I cannot do that. No, I will evaluate a Hindu from the Hindu moral premise. This is the biggest drawback. This is the stupidity which all of them are doing on the internet. That is the need. That was the idea of having a moral relativism or ethical relativism. Fine? It's okay. Right. So see, there can be numerous parameters, and every parameter somewhere focuses on what? On giving or somewhere using the basic human principle as the basis of ethical evaluation. Majority of them, right? So when hedonism is also accepted, it is also accepted on the simple ground that people have the right to enjoy their freedom, their existence, and probably seek comfort for their life. And for that, if they are putting effort and acquiring that comfort, it is worth it. Right? But then, yes, like I said, golden mean, excess comfort, excess consumption. Because when you use the word excess, you are trying to convey the very idea that this is beyond the necessity. So excess कहने का ही मतलब है that you are somewhere consuming what's not yours. Though you can buy it, but it's not yours in terms of what? The earth, the nature has basic redistribution strategy. If the farmer starts eating his own food grains, the others will starve. नहीं? होंगे ना, वो बोल सकता है ना मेरा food grain है मैं खाऊंगा, मैं क्यों बेचूं? सब लोग starve करेंगे. See, so the world or the society or civilizations always flourish on the basis of an interdependence. This is the basic idea. So when you're acting in a society, even in individual sphere, you cannot simply say it is just because my own sphere, my personal space, I'll do whatever I want. That is not justified. You can do whatever you want, right? To the extent it doesn't violate the basic human values. Fine? Now, so you understood this idea? Of same logic, when we are looking at administrative actions, public services, right? Of public sphere. So why public services becomes a focus of ethical evaluation? Every human action can be subject to ethical evaluation, right? But when you use the word public, because it leads to collective interest, collective consequences, collective impacts, whatever. And that is why it comes into this scrutiny. Why? Because public services or public authorities, they have direct consequence on the society. Social values and public services. Social traditions, morality, public services, right? They are constantly in interaction with each other. So public services or public systems or public administration can be considered as the system which somewhere more or less manages the social traditions and morality and also at the same time keeps reforming them. Because there is no other way of social transformation than administrative system. कोई भी system of power जो होगा वही transformation कर सकता है. Power नहीं है, it cannot transform. That is why systems of power are considered to be one of the most vital aspects of ethical evaluation. Power is the most important factor, most important means that can bring changes, that can impact negatively the society and its values. इसलिए power को central figure माना जाता है. All the morals, traditions, जो भी हैं, they cannot survive, neither they can progress, nor they can transform without power. ठीक है? So social context में या political context में power is an essential means, and that is why it is subject to the scrutiny. So those who are in power, automatically they become the subject of scrutiny. So same way, we have tried to, or scholars have tried to come with the idea of public service ethics or public service values. Now see this part, that attitude, aptitude and foundational values for civil services, integrity, impartiality and non-partisan objectivity, dedication to public service, empathy, tolerance, compassion towards the weaker section. See, all this comes from where? Why are we highlighting these values? These all come from some ethical premise. So public services will have to work in a particular way. Now there are a lot of conflicts or a lot of dilemmas that will emerge when public servants are exercising power. Or even if they are doing their usual work, then also they will face a lot of conflicts or issues while they are performing their work. Why? Why? Because not every time whatever they do will be morally accepted by the society. Not everything they do that aligns with the traditions of the society. Not every action which is whatever is justified by them may be justified by the larger community. So governments and public authorities have to work against the resistance from the society. Even though it is working for the society, but society has a lot of traditional elements, right? Conservative value systems, which may not align with the modern political thought. So political systems and administrative systems, they have to look into the idea of how can we continue with certain things and how we can change certain things. So whenever the change will come, the resistance will come, right? This resistance also emerges at various levels. Individual resistance at individual level, personal level. I am also part of the same society. I also have certain value systems, right? Even if my system works against those values, I might feel resistance, or I might create resistance internally within the system. I might not want a reform which may give more power to women, because I have been trained, nurtured in a patriarchal mindset. So I am part of the system, right? And I have to be neutral, but still I may emotionally, intellectually resist that change. Fine. I have to be honest as per my system, right? But I have faced poverty. I have seen a lot of consequences. I have been exploited because of that. And now my personal value or my personal orientation says that you have the power, use it to acquire more money for yourself. My system doesn't want me to act in a particular way, right? But I want to act. So as part of the system, right, I will not try to act that way, right? But as an influence coming from my personal life, from my traditional cultural value system, I might be compelled to do that. So every time people act, every time systems act, every time people in the system act, they face some or the other situation, right, where their personal judgment and systems judgment may come in conflict, where their personal values and organizational values may come in conflict, where their own culture and organization's culture may come in conflict, or the social traditions to which they belong may come in conflict with the legal or laws and the provisions which the system is or organization is making. Constitutional values may come in conflict with social values. So see, every time power is exercised, every time power is used to do something, it will always have some repercussions, sometimes acceptable, sometimes not, sometimes desirable, sometimes not. This is called dilemma. Now, dilemma may appear at various levels, right? You can be, or you may face dilemma of intent, dilemma of intellect, dilemma of thought, dilemma of understanding, right? You can face that also. So ideological dilemmas, intellectual dilemmas, right? Intent dilemmas you might witness, but you might not act on that. Many times you might face dilemmas of action. You may be forced to do something which you inherently don't want to do. It may be right, but you don't want to do. Sometimes you may be forced to do certain things which are not right, but you are made to do. Fine. So अगर आप एक law बना रहे हैं where you are enforcing, let's say, uniform civil code, and personally you do not like this agenda, what will you do? You have to do it. If you are implementing a cow vigilantism law, then probably you don't want it, right? But you have to do. See? So anywhere, wherever you are going to act in public capacity, right? You might always face resistance individually, resistance as per your family and social value system, right? And also resistance as per something which is legal or illegal. So conflicts may appear because of moral values. It may appear because of moral and legal values coming in conflict with each other. It may appear in terms of conflicts between the ethical premise, that is a scientific rational basis, and the moral premise, which is more emotional and subjective basis. So law, morality, conflict हो सकता है. Morality, ethics में conflict हो सकता है, right? Law, ethics, morality में conflict हो सकता है. Personal और public या organizational judgment में conflict हो सकता है. Personal interest और collective interest में conflict हो सकता है. Organizational culture, individual culture में conflict हो सकता है, and likewise. So there are various levels of conflicts which may be visible, right? In your personal life or personal sphere itself, you might witness a difference or conflict between your individual values and your family values. So see, being ethical has a price. Doing ethical has a price. Being legal has a price, and doing legal has a price. Everywhere to act in the desirable way, right? Or to go ahead with what is right, you always have to pay a price. That price is the dilemma. Or that price is the consequence of the dilemma that is created. तो right क्या है और duty क्या है, इसमें भी फर्क है. See, ethics of duty and ethics of virtue, है कोई conflict? है? क्यों नहीं? Ethics of duty says I have to do something, right? Which is my service, which is my obligation. I have to act because this is what I'm supposed to do. Right? But my action has consequences for, or my actions may have consequences for a number of people good, but for some it is bad. Should I go ahead with that? See? And I'm not looking at number. I'm saying whatever I'm doing is right. But still, can I act without even looking at the consequence? I cannot do that. Consequence is not what is guiding me, right? But in any case, whenever I will act, I will try to imagine the consequence. करूंगा कि नहीं करूंगा?
Consequences are only guiding. That is why I'm choosing this value because I think that this will happen and this will not.
नहीं, ये सही नहीं है. You are sometimes modifying the duty that you have to do as per the consequence. Here it is not happening. You are going ahead with the duty. But every duty will have some pros and cons. You cannot neglect your duty. That's very clear. Understanding? तो जो तुम्हारी ड्यूटी है उसमें कोई चॉइस नहीं है तुम्हारे पास. When you'll keep end as the main evaluation, right? What will you do? You'll change your means, no? Here you can't change your means. एक जज को जजमेंट देना है. अब उसको पता है फैक्ट्स गलत है, राइट? लेकिन मुझे तो जजमेंट देना है. क्यों? क्योंकि फैक्ट्स पे मेरा कंट्रोल नहीं है. मेरा कंट्रोल किस पे है? जजमेंट पे. बट फैक्ट्स कैसे, जजमेंट कैसे देना है? जो फैक्ट्स हैं उन्हीं के बेसिस पे देना. आई कैनॉट से चेंज द फैक्ट्स, नो. I will have to accept the facts which are there. Facts are facts. See? So many times the duty ethics or ethics of duty may come in conflict with ethics of virtue. What I may not feel is right. What I may feel is not ethically right, but nonetheless, this is my duty. A soldier killing another soldier. So when at the level of humanitarian principle, he evaluates this is not right. I don't know that person, right? Or for that matter, that person was not even a threat. He was killed only because he belongs to that country. खत्म. वो थ्रेट भी नहीं था रियल, राइट? सिर्फ परसेप्शन था. परसेप्शन के बेसिस पे उसको मार दिया. अब क्या करोगे? So see the idea of right. Right here means something which is absolutely ethical in nature. Understanding? And something which is duty. Right is not rights. You understand? यहाँ राइट का मतलब है सही, करेक्ट, द मोस्ट रैशनल एंड मोस्ट आइडियलिस्टिक चॉइस. Then the conflict will come between duty and rights. If I do my duty, I expect, or if others want their rights to be fulfilled, I expect them to also do their duty, right? If government has given you rights, the government may say they must perform their duty. अब ये भी एक conflict है. Rights versus duty. Now see, there's a difference. What is right versus duty? That's different. That is an evaluation of what? Duty versus what is morally correct, what is ethically correct, right? ये भी एक conflict है. और एक conflict है duty versus rights. Here it is more about the rights of people which they enjoy and the duty which they must fulfill. So these are two separate ideas. Don't be confused. What is right means क्या सही है. What is duty means this is मेरा कर्तव्य. This is what I have to do. I don't care. I have to do, right? So see, deontology would say कि भाई duty is duty. And deontology will try to create, or Kant, when he brings the idea, he says कि भाई there are some universal parameters in which most of the duty that you are performing must fit. If the duties do not have these parameters within them, they are actually not duties. They are not ethical duties then. Fine, because on the same ground, a smuggler will say, a killer will say, contract killer will say, this is my duty, I'm doing it. See, professionalism, understand? But then that professional or that profession does not come into the moral category, you understand? वो तो already उससे बाहर है. See? So see, everywhere public services comes with moral obligation, with a sense of duty, sense of commitment to the task, right? Sense of mission, sense of service. But then, see, every duty or every aspect of duty has its own repercussions. Power, wherever it will be exercised, it will create its own consequences. So that is why, fine, because of the nature of the context in which the administration functions, the entire scenario in which they work, and the kind of complexities which they face, more and more focus now is being done on something called emotional intelligence. Because already intelligence of these people have been tested through examination, merit, whatever, right? But majority of them are found to be lacking in something called emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence now? This is also one area from which questions come, and they also integrate this into case studies. What is emotional intelligence? What are emotions? When you say emotion, what is the meaning of, how do you say, okay, emotional? So what do you mean by saying the word emotional?
Reaction.
No. Reaction is something later aspect. बिना फील के इमोशन आ जाता है तुम्हें? तो बड़ा ही कोडेड इमोशन है ना, टेम्पलेट सिस्टम नहीं? सी स्टूडेंट्स कीप सजेस्टिंग इच अदर पीवाईक्यू पढ़ ले है ना, उससे आ जाएगा, उससे ये तो पता चल जाएगा क्वेश्चन क्या आएगा, लेकिन आंसर कैसे लिखेंगे? नहीं? इफ यू नो व्हाट क्वेश्चन विल कम, दैट्स फाइन, बट व्हाट विल यू राइट इन द आंसर, वो कैसे पता चलेगा? पीवाईक्यू देख के look at the level of stupid, or you can say extreme stupidity, with which Indian education system is infested. Fine, same. क्यों? इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस है ही नहीं। उनके लिए इंटेलिजेंस का मतलब सिर्फ एक फैक्ट का क्लासिफिकेशन, खत्म। नॉलेज हो गया, कॉग्निटिव एबिलिटी डेवलप हो गई, सब कुछ हो गया, ग्राफ मिल गया, डायग्राम मिल गया, चलो बस हो गया। See, that's the problem. To empathize according to circumstance, Tushar, but see, that's not the idea. The simple idea. Whenever, right, a thought, whenever something visual, whenever something as a thought, whenever something as a visual manifestation, whenever something as a stimuli, external, whenever something as a reaction is visible to you, anything, right, which somewhere appeals to what? Appeals to your conscience, मान लो, चलो, right, correct. Don't say conscious, but consciousness. Conscious तो बहुत बड़ा word हो गया. But anything which appeals to or impact to your consciousness, that means you are alive and you are thinking and you are acting and you are feeling. That is what you are alive. You are organic species. So something, whenever it impacts any external reaction, any internal thought, right, any kind of event or circumstance which is around you, maybe not physically around you. That's why I said emotional, mental also. It may be happening anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter. So what happens when you start visualizing it, right? When you start visualizing it, that okay, this is what is happening, this is what has happened, this is what is going to happen, this was what had happened, whatever the idea, past, present, future, kuch bhi ho sakta hai, right? What do? Your consciousness, right, wants to, what does it want to do? क्या करना चाहिए आपकी consciousness? If you are having a visualization, if you are experiencing something, if you are empathizing with something, whatever you are doing, what will your consciousness try to do? Correct. Or it will try to bring you into equilibrium. वो आपका जो disorder का state है, negative, positive, जो भी disorder है, right? It will try to bring you into an equilibrium. कि भाई तुम बहुत दुखी हो, right? तो दुखी रहोगे या दुख को निकालोगे बाहर? रहोगे या निकालोगे? तो आंसू बहा दो, दुख बाहर निकल जाए। रिएक्ट कर लो, वो बाहर जाए। सी what is that emotional feeling, right? It is a very, what you can say, integrated process of your internal and external environment. It's a relationship that is developed. That is what feeling, right? Feeling is a kind of sense of response. So whenever you have this kind of feeling, whenever you experience something, whenever you visualize something, your consciousness wants you to, right, bring it at equilibrium. It senses, your body, your consciousness senses this as some kind of danger or threat or some disorder. And it wants to bring back to you to normal, right? And that is how you react. Either you react emotionally or you react physically. You may do it in any way. So emotions क्या करते हैं, right? They somewhere shape or they somewhere indicate your inner consciousness. That is what emotion is. So emotions are more stable and they are general. They are common across a lot of people, right? For some emotions may be more dominant, others may not be that dominant, right? Again, I would say the same thing. The emotions are again shaped by your circumstances over a period of time. To what you have responded frequently, that develops. To what you have not responded frequently, it doesn't develop. That's why we say a child who is an orphan or whose parents were dead or who that has seen the history of violence, right, it becomes more or less like that. Why? Because he had been mostly responding to a particular kind of value or to a particular kind of emotion, right? And others have been subdued. So that's not healthy development. You understand? Fine. Chalo, whatever. So see, emotional intelligence, why this becomes important? Because this is much more deeper than habit. This is much more deeper than just intelligence. So emotional intelligence is considered to be probably much more stable, right? Source of response within you. It's a stable source of response, right? So if we appeal to emotional intelligence, if we are able to understand what is it, if we are able to describe a process to understand it, if we are able to use it effectively, can we transform people better than merely training? You understand? If we somewhere focus on emotional intelligence and emotional understanding of people, then probably we can transform them more easily than merely giving them some skills and training. That's the idea. कि कैसे इसको better transform किया सकता है. So psychologically इसको समझो. And in psychology, one of the important factors is what? The emotion. So how people, right? They are clinging on to, they are associated with their emotions. You understand? So if we appeal to those emotions, if we make them more, or if we somewhere explore this emotional aspect consciously that people have, right? We can make them more sensitive to themselves, sensitive to their environment, both, not just environment, to themselves. So उन्हें ये समझ में आएगा कब रोना है, कब हंसना है. See, try to understand. You see, emotionally insensitive people, somebody is fallen into a ditch and you are laughing. नहीं? That is how society responds or not? So चलते चलते कोई गिर गया और बाकी जो खड़े हैं उसको देख के हंस रहे हैं. See? Lack of empathy, lack of sensitivity. Their emotional intelligence has not developed. They are not able to connect to the other person at the same level. You understand? See? So if a policeman is snatching money from somewhere or he's, forcefully manipulating someone, the others will run away from there, right? Trying to save themselves. But they cannot stand up to that bully policeman. Why? Lack of emotional intelligence. Lack of intelligence तो नहीं है. Intelligence तो बहुत है उनके पास. The intelligence which protects the self-interest, that is quite developed. But the intelligence that makes them sensitive and empathetic is not developed. कुछ समझ में आ रहा है इतना? ठीक है. So why? Why this becomes important today? It is because of that we want civil services, right? We want people in power not to be intelligent, but to be emotionally stable, right? To understand the consciousness, the level of emotional consciousness they have, and use it to respond to the situations.
This idea stable, this includes a lot of practicing elements. How this idea is stable in this way?
Emotions are more stable, no? When you say this person is emotionally unstable, वो भी तो एक stability है ना? ये पता नहीं कि emotionally unstable है. See, will habits define you more in a better manner or your emotions? Emotions are more deeper than habits. If you understand there is a compartment in your brain in psychology, right? And then at the higher levels of the compartment, there are certain things, habits, right? Aptitudes. Then lower levels, deeper level is attitude. Then emotion. Then consciousness. Or then conscience. That's the deepest level. So imagine this way. So if I'm looking at the upper levels, right? I'm looking at only temporary aspects. If I go deeper, right? I'm going to know some more permanent aspects of your behavior. Permanent aspects of your personality, I'll come to know about them. Wo emotion. That is why I'm exploring the idea of emotional intelligence. If I go to the intelligence only, I'm only exploring the upper part. Left brain, right brain, मैं सिर्फ ये explore कर रहा हूँ, right? तो ये तो illogical सी चीज़ है कि मैं सिर्फ आपके aptitude तक जा रहा हूँ. अब मुझे आपके attitude पे भी जाना है, right? मुझे आपकी consciousness तक जाना है, तो मैं कैसे जाऊँगा? Unless I know what it is. Unless I try to explore what it is. If I have to bring a transformation in you, I will have to go to that level, right? Where it triggers better change in you. Then only the superficial changes. Right? Your brain responds that way. So logically, see, every bureaucrat or people who are in power, they need to be sensitive on the use of power. They need to be sensitive, right, on how they respond to the people around them, circumstances around them. Why? Because society, citizens, anybody else, they have a lot of expectation from these people in power. So if these people cannot be transformed the way we want them to, right? All the talk about sensitivity, integrity, probity is useless. Why? Because we have not been able to transform them at the level where these values that we want them to acquire can be stable. Are you getting this? Fine. So you're washing your face several times in a day, but you're not improving your gut health. There will always be pimples on your face. Right? You'll see a lot of other things, blemishes coming on your face. Why? Because you have not treated the source of the problem. So emotions are deep-seated. You have not arrived at that level. You have never reached that level. You're only looking at the external aspects, right? Aptitude change कर दो, थोड़ा habit change कर दो, right? इसको थोड़ा sensitize कर दो. कैसे कर दो sensitize? If it did not appeal to your emotion, that is why people say, watch this movie. You see how the child has been exploited. Now, see, that will appeal. Why? Because then you are emotionally connected. You are responding to it. And that too in a voluntary environment, not in a forced environment. You know about Rudali's? Very famous movie, Rudali. Won national award. Dimple Kapadia was the actor. You know about Rudali? Who are Rudalis? You heard of that? Rajasthan में तो बड़े popular है. You're from Jodhpur? Which place are you from? Udaipur. Whatever. Rajasthan से तो हो ना भी. उधर बहुत famous है. बहुत popular है. They are professional weepers. या professional mourners. ये professionally mourn करते हैं किसी चीज को. They weep. Right? They create a mourning environment. Not mourning environment. So death of people, right? Anything that happens. So generally when they have to, or like we call people to dance and sing when we are happy, right? We call them when we are unhappy. Yes, people especially call during times of grief, correct? तो ये professional weepers हैं, या grief करने वाले हैं, mourners हैं basically. See, Rudalis to cry. That's a profession. You don't know about it. So they are very popular in Rajasthan. So, see, logically, right? अब ये Rudalis क्या है भाई? They are weeping under professional circumstances. They are weeping as a bargain. Transactional relation है ना, पैसा दिया weep करो भाई. अब इनके emotions natural है नहीं है. So यहाँ पे कोई emotional intelligence develop नहीं है. Right? It has become more automated, mechanical है. तो ये weep कहाँ से कर रहे हैं? Emotion से नहीं कर रहे हैं. ये habit से weep कर रहे हैं. That's the difference. But when the person or somebody from the family who's very near and dear one has lost, he is not weeping because of professional compulsion. Right? So he is weeping, or his source of weep or grief is coming from what? Much below. That is called the emotional seat or emotions of the person. For them, it is coming from the higher or superficial level called habit. सिंपल सी चीज है, नहीं समझ आ रही? सी, ये तो लॉजिकल सी चीज है कि बॉडी एक्शन सेम है, ब्रेन को मैसेज सेम जा रहा है, राइट? बट वहां पे मैसेज कैसे जा रहा है? Because it has become a habit, it's a compulsion. They are doing it every day, right? And one, the message is coming from the actual emotions which are generated voluntarily within the person. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, are we talking about those kind of emotions which are created by compulsion, or we are talking about the emotions which are self-generated? You understand? We are talking about the emotions which are self-generated. दोनों processes हैं emotions के. किसी भी bodily function के भी दोनों processes हैं, right? You understand? दोनों bodily process है, हर चीज के लिए. Physiological processes वैसे भी हो सकते हैं. Fine. So it is quite logical. See. So when, right, you are voluntarily expressing an emotion because of connecting yourself to the circumstances or a response to the consciousness or whatever you're feeling around you, okay, that is called the actual emotion. So this idea appeals to emotion, or it wants to use this particular resource you have or we have, right? This particular entity we have is being used to transform people, right? To become more sensitive. not only regarding themselves, that they are already there. Everyone is personally or individually very sensitive about himself, right? But how that same model, how that same framework can be applied to the other to become more sensitive. Understanding? Same logic is applied when Bernard talks about acceptance theory of authority. When you're exercising authority, also assume that it is being exercised on you, right? When you'll assume it, you'll be more sensitive in exercising authority. Follow law of situation, same logic. How will you imagine what you're doing to the other? तो एम्पैथी करोगे कैसे करोगे जब तुम्हारा उतना इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस डेवलप होगा तब ना. You ask people empathize, they will say how to empathize, we don't know. How can we empathize? They don't know how to empathize, उनको पता ही नहीं. Sympathy सबको पता है. You understand? Empathize करना easy नहीं है. So anybody, your best friend comes and he says my father is dead, you cannot empathize. You can feel for him, that's fine, but you cannot empathize. Because there are a lot of circumstances, a lot of feelings that only come when they happen with you. They can never come when they happen with anyone else. So people talk all big things about students who died, right? It's obviously very difficult to imagine that. But empathizing would mean not only understanding or accepting their death as something unfaithful, but also imagining the horror through which they went. Who can imagine that horror? Nobody can. Nobody can imagine that horror. Impossible. Your senses may not be as developed, your emotional intelligence is not as developed as you can visualize yourself that I'm stuck in water and I'm trying to come out. How can you do that? So empathy करने के लिए भी खुद को situation में डालना पड़ता है. You understand? So when the government says, like one collector, right, or collector IS duo हैं जिन्होंने अपने बेटे को सरकारी स्कूल में admission दिया. They wanted to set an example, right? But did they make sure that the school is such that DM's son or DM's daughter, whosoever are going to the school, they would be having better privileges at home compared to anyone else, right? And even in school also, they might be getting some privileges, let's say. The other children could not associate with this feeling. Why? Because probably they are not getting those kind of privileges as these children are getting. So for them, that place is a change for some time. Understanding? That is basically a forced, right? Or let us say an artificial sacrifice which they are making. Yahi to kar rahe ho. For other children, it is the way of life. There's a difference. That is what helps us understand. That is what emotional intelligence is about. So I may admit my son to a sarkari school, right? But then my car will go and drop him. He'll come back in AC car, again go to the AC room, right? What will he realize? For him, it is just a break from the comfort he's having. So empathy कैसे आएगी उसके अंदर? नहीं आएगी ना? क्यों? उसके circumstances वो हैं नहीं. Understanding? See? So iPhone लेके वो सरकारी स्कूल में जाएगा बताओ तो उसको कहाँ से empathy आएगी? So the logic is that you need to, or you cannot visualize unless you are put in the circumstances. So emotional intelligence, there are descriptive models. When you say descriptive models, they are the theoretical models which help us understand that how or what parameters we can use to understand or to at least visualize the emotional intelligence of a person, right? What test we can conduct to imagine or evaluate his emotional intelligence. And then by knowing that, how are we going to divert this person to something what we call as positive or constructive emotional intelligence or desirable EI. So emotional intelligence models जो हैं वो prescriptive नहीं है, वो transformational नहीं है. They are merely descriptive, they are more or less evaluative, but they cannot transform. Right? जैसे गोलमैन का मॉडल है. गोलमैन is a model, it's a very popular model, 1958 में डेवलप हुआ. ABC model, Goldman, right? Or Baron's model, ESR, emotional social response, or emotional social intelligence. So a Goldman का model, एक Baron का model, एक और एक model है, right? See, but these models are what? These models are a kind of sketch. They are like a framework to understand theoretically, right, what constitutes and how do we understand emotional intelligence. But do they have any direct impact on the person's emotional intelligence? That is still debatable. Because emotional intelligence is not a formula or a training tool which can be used and transformed. See, 𝐂𝐨𝐻𝐵, who gave the idea of sensitivity training, that's a model of emotional intelligence transformation using emotional intelligence. Right? Sorry, using improving emotional intelligence using particular method which he calls as lab method. So there are ways to enhance emotional intelligence, right, or to achieve the desired emotional intelligence, but majority of the models are theoretical. They only explain this is what it is. Like for example, Goleman's model ABC, affective, behavioral, cognitive. Now he says there are components or 5 aspects of his model, right? So लिख लेंगे, don't worry, book में होगा वो पढ़ लेना. That Ratna is not, but yes, you can remember it. That's better. If you have to write a theoretical answer, something you'll write now. But see, he says there are 3 components: affective, behavioral, cognitive. Right? What is cognitive? उल्टा होना चाहिए वैसे तो. CBA model होना चाहिए, right? But it's ABC model. Seems more easy to say. Cognitive is this. Behavioral is this, and effective is what impacts it. So how a person will be made conscious of his actions emotionally. So your emotional responses or your emotional understanding can be first transformed at cognitive level, then they will be reflected in your behavioral level, and then they will be, or the kinds of behavior that is desired as per the situation, that is called affective level. कि कैसा behavior किस situation में use करना है. Your entire behavioralism is based on that idea. You understand? How a manager will respond to the worker. Emotional intelligence ही तो है भाई. Welton Mayo, Maslow, McGregor, Herzberg, what are they doing? They're basically trying to understand this. How organization will respond to individuals, right? To managers, how managers will respond to workers. All are, or whatever the advanced behavioralism is, it is about emotional intelligence. How do we nurture this behavior? How do we nurture this attitude or approach towards people? So emotional intelligence models were developed, right? One of these central aspect of any emotional intelligence model or framework, whether to understand what emotional intelligence is or to improve someone's emotional intelligence. One of the important aspects is, right, to, or fundamental to any model that you write. You can use the same thing anywhere. It's fundamental to all the models, right? One is self-awareness, right? Second is awareness of the surrounding. These 2 components are सबसे important. Self-awareness and awareness of the context of the surrounding. If you're sitting in an office, fine, you must be self-aware. That means where you are sitting, you must know, right? So automatically, right, your brain or your consciousness will adjust to this idea. And then you should also know that where you are sitting, so whatever you think, whatever your consciousness helps you understand around you, whatever you act now will have consequences. See, this will make you more sensitive in terms of your action and consequence. First, it will make aware of that. If you are sitting in the middle of a stadium with people around you, right? If you do something, what will happen? It will create a particular impact. See, so first awareness is knowing where you are and what your actions may, or what consequences your actions may create. Now that is a sensitivity aspect. You must be sensitive, aware about what you are doing in the surroundings. Second, you are aware about the surroundings, so you know which of the emotions, which of the behaviors to be used and which not to be used, like shutting on and shutting off certain things. See, are you getting? See, same logic. Then aware of your emotions and aware of others' emotion. ये भी 2 other components. One is awareness of self. One is awareness of your emotions. So how emotionally sensitive you are about yourself. So self-awareness of emotion is a very important aspect. That means what? You should be able to understand, right? That in this particular situation, do you have ability to act? Do you have ability to think? Do you have ability to understand things or not? Understanding? So let's say you are aware of this situation. You are aware of yourself. Okay, I'm sitting in middle of a stadium or in middle of a classroom, right? This is the environment. What will my actions create? Yes, I know that also, right? ये तो awareness होगी. दूसरा, you are emotionally aware or not. Now see, you are drunk. You don't have control over your emotion. So in spite of being the awareness that I'm in the classroom, right, and my emotions will affect someone, you do not have control over emotions because you are in a particular state. See. So next level is what? To understand what your emotions are as of now, and will you be able to use them, or will you be able to yes, channelize or direct them for certain aspects. And then also understanding the emotion of others. So how you will respond and how they are going to react. If you are going to respond in a particular way, they are going to react in a particular way. So if you want to change their reaction, you change your response. That is the idea. That is what emotional intelligence is. Obviously, every theory helps us understand that how you will arrive at a process, how will you develop a process of understanding and using it. You understand? So the moment somebody is shouting in front of you and you keep mum, The person will stop after some time. If you keep shouting at the same level, there is going to be a conflict. Right? So it is logical, see? That you need to develop that emotional sense, or you can say smartness, let us say, not just intelligence, right? But emotional sensitivity, that if I do this, okay, that's my smartness. I have a lot of knowledge, I have a lot of information, I can do this, right? But if I do this, what is going to be the reaction of others towards me? So knowing things, right, is intelligence. But knowing when to use these things and what to expect from others is emotional intelligence. Are you getting? Same here. You know, you have knowledge, you don't know how to put that into the words so that I can create a response from the examiner. You understand? That is empathizing with the examiner. That is why if every student learns that, he will write good answers. Because if you evaluate your answer only after some time, you will say what rubbish this is written. So same emotions will be generated by the examiner when he sees your answer. But you are not able to dissociate yourself from your answer, so you're always biased about what you're writing. Sir, मैंने तो सही लिखा है, नहीं? But आप उसको detach करके देखो उस biasness से. Then you'll realize कि भाई what will the other person feel who is already educated enough, who has already a decade of experience, and he is now evaluating my answer. What will he feel about it? Now see, it is difficult to do that, no doubt. But with some consistent practice, it will come. अगर तुम अपना ही आंसर पढ़ के तुम्हें अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, तो इवैल्यूएट करने वाले को कैसे लगेगा? नहीं? इतनी बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग तो तुम्हारे पास भी है ना कि आंसर कैसा ठीक होना चाहिए. But you are writing it and giving it to someone to evaluate, and now he feels the same way. He says, okay, fine, this is a rubbish answer. So see, there is very important aspect of emotional intelligence is self or introspection. Right? So self-awareness also requires somewhere introspection. You must be able to evaluate yourself. You must be able to neutrally view yourself. Whatever your actions or thoughts are they correct? Are they justified? Are they suitable to a particular circumstance? So today, civil services, second ARC has kept emotional intelligence as one of the most important parameters for civil servants, more than the traditional intelligence or the knowledge about subject or a discipline, more than that, see. And that is why sometimes you'll find that they can choose people who do not have very extraordinary knowledge, because they are also looking for people with a simpler brain, who can accept better values, right, than better knowledge. Because they have to use these people at various levels in the administration. So they always want leadership to have high emotional intelligence, right? And followers to have high intelligence. That is why middle level bureaucracy, intelligence, more factual information. Lower level bureaucracy, more factual information. And higher level leadership, more intellectual development. More sensitive orientation. समझ में आ गया इतना? Fine.